think we should get started. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. To those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Magdalena Falda. I'm a teacher and a researcher at Háskóli Íslands, and I'm a project manager at Keynote, who is hosting this webinar keynote speech today. To those of you who have been here in our webinar last week, this will be a small repetition, but I would like to start by introducing the project Extor, which is an Erasmus Plus funded project, and this is the project that's funding this initiative here today. I'm going to share my screen for that. Yeah. Can everybody see that? So
Yes.
Extor is a joint project which consists of 6 countries, and Iceland is one of them, and it stands for Experiential Tourism for Sustainable Rural Development. And it has quite big goals. Its goal is to foster rural innovation, its goal is to boost rural entrepreneurial activities and tourism, and to just support rural tourism entrepreneurs in their skill sets. And I would just like to invite you guys to check out the project's webpage. You can find that behind this QR code or just by using this link. And there's a lot of material there on that topic. There's, for example, an e-learning platform where you can find a whole course program which aims to boost entrepreneurial skill sets. You can just use it for yourself or embed it into your institution. It is free for everybody to use and available in different languages. Then we have a platform there, a community platform, which is called Diginrur. And there we invite you to just register if you want to be kept up to date with all kinds of information on the topic. So just check it out. Maybe there's something of use for you. And just like in our webinar last week, I need to ask you for a little bit of support, because this is an Erasmus Plus funded project, and probably all of you guys that have worked with Erasmus Plus before know how strict that funding mechanism can be when it comes to providing evidence and proof. And in this webinar, we need to provide participants feedback, and there I need your help. So I would like to ask you to scan the QR code with whatever role that you registered in the registration form, and that will lead you to a short survey. And in order to be able to answer all the questions that are in this survey, I need to ask you to additionally scan this QR code down here, chart of intent. And I'm going to shortly show you. For that, I have to stop recording, sharing my screen, I mean. And when you scan this chart of intent, oops, sorry. One second. Okay, somehow this doesn't work now, but if you scan that that QR code with the chart of intent, that will lead you to a short document. Oops. That will lead you to a short document, and this is basically just a vision of how rural innovation should look like in the participating countries. So just a few bullet points. And if you can somehow identify yourself with what is stated in that document, it would be so great if you could just place your signature into that document. That would help us greatly, because only with your support we can manage to offer such free webinars like this one today. But that's enough about the organizational things. Let's get started with today's keynote speech. And just like last week, we have an awesome keynote speaker today. And I'm very happy to welcome Gunnar Ólafsson from the Westfjords today. Hi, Gunnar, and welcome to this session. Do you hear me? Hi, there
An
you are.
absolute honor to be with you, and I'm very happy to share some insights and get your feedback on it.
Yeah, me too. I'm super happy that you agreed to be our keynote speaker for this session today. Let me shortly introduce you. So Gunnar lives in Bolungarvík, and there he's the founder of Djúpið, and Djúpið is an innovation hub which has the goal to support entrepreneurs and local community initiatives there. And Gunnar is a real doer and creative mind. Gunnar, we got to know to each other about 6 years ago, I think it's already, when I was in the process of co-founding Hacking Hackla, which is a rural hackathon series that was active here in Iceland about 3 years ago. Maybe you guys have heard about it. And there Gunnar supported us greatly as a mentor. So Gunnar is very passionate about strengthening local resilience with all kinds of projects and in all kinds of roles. And today he will share his insights about a pilot project on AI in tourism with us. And he carried out that project in Blábankinn, the Blue Bank in Thingeyri, where he was the leader back then when the project happened. So Gunnar, the floor is yours. I'm happy to hear your story.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Sharing.
So some years ago, while managing the Blábankinn Thingeyri, we had the idea of integrating AI tools into our work more and more. Because as with all smaller entities and organizations, we were short-staffed and we needed more assistance in primarily data crunching. Small NGOs and organizations, as you probably already know, are mostly funded via grant schemes and via participation in bigger projects, Erasmus projects, Innora projects, etc. And we mostly rely on that. Governmental funding is also a part, but this is our primary. It also comes with, as Magdalena described, quite a lot of responsibility. There are certain things that our sponsors demand in feedback, in data, in report, via reports and via publicity. So we started using it ourselves, and with Westfjords, which is our regional agency for innovation and industry and tourism, of course, we started looking at possibilities. That ended and concluded with us having a workshop in the Blue Bank at the end of 24, which was called AI for Tourism, or it was called AI for Tourism or Curiosity Tools. And we had participants from mostly the Westfjords but also from abroad. And it was quite interesting to get excellent teachers, excellent keynote speakers to bathe us in their wisdom and experience. And we learned quite a lot. But then again, the tool sets we were utilizing even just over a year ago were not or hardly comparable to what we have access to today. And so in these few slides that I prepared perhaps hastily and at the last minute, but perhaps not, we will go over what has changed, how we used to do things, what is the state of the art, future predictions. We will look at ethical issues and questions. It is a very grade school setup of slides, so it is a few bulletins per slide ending with a question. And I hope that you will help me with going through these questions by answering them with me. So this will take some time, but hopefully we will learn something on it. So curiosity tool was there. There we have our wonderful Binni, and with a crudely created AI image, which was trending at the time, as you probably know. We were all doing it. It was perhaps not cool, but it was convenient. Now, we went through basic understanding of how the AI tools, how the large language models were working in our advance, or to our advance. So as you probably already are familiar with the models, I'm not going to bore you with crude explanations of how, but this is how we were utilizing GPT at the time. We were utilizing the workshop to empower the traveling agents in our area by utilizing clever work tools or curiosity tools. We were also speaking for that people were more active in gathering data, more active in sorting their data and utilizing it as an asset. And in that aspect, we were promoting a common database for travel agents in our area. Very local specific knowledge owned by us. Data sovereignty was perhaps our biggest biggest issue in that workshop. So without further ado, to get up to speed on this, like just run through this with your eyes. The slides are also available when you want to go over them, perhaps later or not. I just linked them in the chat, so you can always look them up. And there is like, yeah, there's an archive in the last slide where you can look up most of the data that I went through to get to this point. In 2023 to 4, we were looking at just extra capabilities. We were using it to go through emails, and we were using it to just expand our hands slightly by creating images, by going through text, answering emails, but not completely. Full integration was not at the time possible, but we were getting closer to it. So the timeline has been kind to us in that sense. So we've gone from just individual tools to shared systems. We've gone went from small productivity gains to actually gaining strategic value in data set and crunching power. And we stopped experimenting, and we started to use the tools to actually make decisions based on future predictions and the data sets that we had. And that's been extremely interesting to follow and be a part of. So then we have a question of why should we then use it for our service? Primarily because we're facing interesting times. We're living at a time where data is not necessarily reliable. It's not enough to point a photo towards somebody and say, look, this is how it is. I have a photo of it. We can't rely on citations. We can't rely on other media. Therefore, and hence, the industry is getting more tricky to navigate as life is. And we can use this to sift through the slop, therefore increasing our value in a service-based market. So that's like our primary use for it. Just going to move thing. There you go. So the first question for you as a group or individuals is, where are you feeling the biggest daily pressure in your operation? For me, is there somebody that wants to answer this to give us some insight into individually yourselves?
And just raise your hands or just say.
Yeah, or just unmute and answer.
Yeah.
I would say for my industry, I own a wedding planning business, and I'm also part of Katla Geopark, where we're doing science-driven tourism. I would say the saturation of the market. So competition, yes, but just that there's so many things to do, and people are so inundated with TikTok and all the videos, and then Get Your Guide and all these different places. They don't really know what's best and where to go and what's unique.
Yeah. How are you tackling it at the moment? How are you dealing with these challenges?
Upping service game, right? Being the superior, chosen person, trying to be, working on the internal structure to elevate yourself, right?
Yeah. Excellent.
Hector has a comment.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, for me, the biggest pressure or issues is to find the source of data which I could use to do, for example, some estimation of clients, of revenues. For example, how many cars enter to the city, or how many people enter to local supermarkets, for example. To me, that's the most challenge related to data.
Yeah. Which industry are you in? Do you have like a small service business, or what do you do, Hector?
Work with like for a guest house here in Westfjords. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. All right. So are you currently, both Anne and Hector, are you utilizing the AI tools for this? Like Hector, how are you tackling this with tools, or are you?
Uh, I used to work with some software like R and others related with risk simulators and something like that. But the most challenge to me the principal challenge is to tackle to learn to integrate the IA sorry
Yeah,
with these tools, even with Excel. To me it will be that an an aspect that I would like to learn. Yeah.
yeah. All right. I hope that we can get closer to it so that you have like a better grasp of it, or at least see a way in. And I'm pretty sure that somebody in the group has like experience with it. So one of the wonderful thing about webinars, at least in my experience and the courses that I've been a part of with Magdalena, is the immense networking effect. I've gotten to know colleagues and collaborators throughout the years through webinars and such. So I'm super happy with this. Um, all right, I'm going to continue closing this. I'm going here. Oops, sorry. So what do we mean by AI in this case? And for this presentation, we're primarily looking at it as a tool set or a singular tool if you must, but you can create whichever tool you need from it in most cases. I wouldn't necessarily recommend using it for image creation. Uh, it's although it's getting to a point where we can't see the difference, it's still at the point where some can, and it is viewed negatively by many. It also opens the door to absolute manipulation, as we've seen, like cases with the use of grok and legal issues thereof. But as a pattern recognizer, that's perhaps the most valuable tool that we can create. So getting to know where the traffic is coming, how our guests or service buyers are utilizing our services, what they give in feedback, and creating feedback loops is something we should probably be doing more of. It's both fun and it is an extremely low. It's an extremely, how can I phrase this? It's not necessarily pushing you to give information, like as a customer. Just the service feedback loop is an easy way to get valuable information. Is there a worry that is specific? I'm guessing each and every one of us in the group have some worries related to how it is being used. And it has been shown to have negative effects in some areas, whereas some are quite positive.
Maybe I can just jump in here, even though I'm not running a tourism business myself.
Yes.
But I think everybody has the fear about transparency. Like you never know, about data protection, ethical guidelines. You never know, what is leaking through when you use AI.
Yeah. Well, all of it is leaking through, and or at least it seems to be that way. And like the ownership of data is something that we are unfamiliar with because we grew up in a time where data was like not easily accessible. To get valuable data, you had to be a member of a club, a member of a group of certain kind, or you had to like buy data. But now we can access it quite freely. But we don't necessarily, at least in my case, so I'm not going to speak for you all there, but I don't seem to really comprehend the value of my data. So I give it away quite easily. I'm still the guy that scrolls to the bottom to push the accept all terms button without realizing what exactly I'm giving away. What is my true payment? So we're going to look at the past, like how we were using the things, how we were using the tools. Just a second. So behind me, you will hear my dog celebrating my daughter coming home. He's very happy to hear her and see her, as you heard. Iris. So how we used to do things, small businesses were handling everything manually. I've been a part of such operations where we were answering all emails usually in the after hours, after we took care of the normal operations, the tour guiding or the creation of services or whatever. So it was like quite a lot of extra pressure connected to that kind of stuff. Manual labor in data as well. The few digital tools that we were using were quite limited in capabilities, and our daily work, and in many cases still is, disconnected from our strategy for growth. And so does that match your past experience is the question. I don't need an answer. I know that in most cases it is. But we were doing, the work I was doing was in very few cases connected to what I was aiming at. So how we went from manual notebooks or pen and paper to predictive models was quite an interesting journey because there were no rules on how to do things. Then there are still very few. And that's because of the rapid pace of how things are evolving. But it's also back tracing to the ownership of data. It's not necessarily convenient for the service provider that we are buying our services from, the AI companies or the data companies, to have us completely aware of what the value of data is. So the rules were bendable and they were in not all cases in place. And the barrier to starting was quite different for all of us. And in the previous workshops on this subject, most of the time it was just the high wall of learning something new, whereas we were quite stressed already. And as a service provider, especially in smaller companies, you don't have the leeway or the mind space to actually take on a new learning. Not something that is necessarily promising to give quick rewards or pay for itself immediately. So today, looking at small and medium companies, most of the time they're using it for something external or their publicity. And that's understandable because that's a very low threshold to jump over into use of AI tools to help you. And we saw this with like the people that came to our workshop in the Blábankinn, that in the following months, especially, we started to notice that they became more consistent in their publicity, in their media, in advertisement, in social media posts, and in feedback. We were seeing that they were getting better externally or more visible. Hence, now they were utilizing it for content creation as well, which was understandable, and most of them have gotten way better at it. We're still seeing like first steppers or people coming into the use of AI tools for their business being, well, clumsy. And you can probably see this with like the smallest restaurants and with the smallest entrepreneurs utilizing the tools, that the data sets that they are creating, the texts and the images, are crude and in some cases sloppy. And that's understandable. But taking into account that most of them would not be utilizing these tools for anything else than social media and external media, they wouldn't be doing it either way. They're more visible this way than they were before, and that is a good thing most of the time. So how can we save the most time in our operations is perhaps one of the best questions. And it's the first question that we ask us, because time is our most valuable asset as an entrepreneur or as an owner or an operator in a small to medium company. Whereas the organizations and larger players, they're utilizing it differently. Most of the time, it's because of a different value system for mind space or time. They're utilizing it instead of externally for publications, they're utilizing it more for internal work, for developing better data sets to build on plans for the future. And they're speeding up administrative work. And if you ever utilized AI services to like hire people or crunch applications, job applications for your workplace, it's evident how it can help. It can just sort through data, and that's its primary purpose. And if you are a member of a small and medium company, your focus for AI tools is most of the time different. And we hope that we can help you like bridge that gap somehow. The next steps, where would we like to take the next steps? It's a difficult question to answer since I don't know where you are at the time, but I would love to learn some insights on that. Is there somebody who wants to share where exactly they are and where they are planning to use AI tools? How the next months look for you? Right, work on the next one.
Maybe I
Scope.
can say something, Gunnar, because
Sure.
I was you invited me to this workshop, Curious Tools, last year. And what I found so interesting, because you asked the same question there, like where should the next step go? And what I found so interesting was that all the businesses were on different kind of levels. Nobody's on the same level. Just what I remembered here.
And that's one of the like difficult things to manage, like as information provider. It's difficult to like streamline information so it's good for all, because some of the things that we will provide in the data that we are like presenting today is new information to some, where it is that some of the participants here have like traveled way past this. So it's interesting to like to see where people are. I'm going to look on the next one.
We just got a message in the chat from Max. He says his plans are to make some ads and make social media pages for businesses to promote.
Aha, okay. That's a superb use for it. And that's an excellent, easy way in. Realizing what you need to create is, of course, you've probably gone through that, Max. And what is your business, Max? Where are you in? Are you a service provider? Are you a worker with an agency, or where are you? Ciao.
No, he works at
A
a
guest
guest house.
house.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things that we were seeing with guest house owners here in our workshop and in talks that I've had with them since was that they started to diagnose or collect different data or from their customers or their guests. When we asked them the first time, like, do you collect data on your guests? They immediately were quite defensive. Like, of course we are not. Ooh, dansk. Ah, Maxim Petrov, friend of Isaac, I'm guessing. Yeah, no. Damn it. I was hoping that the network was this small. Nice to meet you, Max. But anyways, like the guest data that you are collecting already, just via the booking systems, is supremely valuable. And most of the booking services already give you great insight into the demographic of your clients. Now, strategizing the advertisement plans from that is an extremely clever thing to do. And it is probably the best use of your time, so that your advertisements are hitting the group that is most likely customer group with the things that they are most likely to connect with. And AI tools are great for crunching this. And like if you haven't found those tools already, I can help you with finding them at a later time. Yes, creating ads is, yes, it is. And it's not fun, but this can be automated. But having like strict guidelines around it is like the biggest work. And then it's automation. And I would be happy to look at that with you at a later point. It would be fun. Oops. Good use. And this is what Max is mentioning is exactly that. Good ethical use. Oops. And this comes into the ethical questions, like how are we not bags of shit when we use the AI? Because it's quite easy to become manipulative, because this is a very powerful tool, and with power, well, comes corruption. Being sure of your values, like before creating a plan on how to use the tools and creating the tools, is probably something that should be taken as a big chat within your organization or company. Like, how will we use it? What will we not do? And it is often referenced in like in ethics, like the first mantra of Google was not be evil. And then we can go on a huge debate on if they have ever been evil or if they've been just dancing on that line. But we need to be quite strict on like what our modus operandi is, like what we want to do and how. Now, good use is focused on service, like because we are service providers. We are only as good as our last guest or customer says that we are. And we can get there in the terms of using AI tools by verifying all info and being responsible. Like automation of advertisements is easy, but being responsible with it is not, and many are not. So we're seeing a lot of slop data that is just, or bulks of texts that are just created in a minute, often at a traffic light or something, I don't know, but some of it is just slop. So we try to get there by being responsible for our output. There should be a human always making the final decision before publication. And with good AI use, I would like to ask you for examples. Can you name me something that is exemplary, something that is as you would like to do it, be it from an individual, a company, or an entity, or an organization?
You mean like a good way how we are using AI, or like a good example?
Good example would be great. And a good example.
I like to use it like in European Union projects where you have to
Yes.
collect a lot of data, and then you get a big Excel sheet with all kinds of columns and different rows. And I just like to upload that into ChatGPT and ask it to make a document out of it that I can actually read.
Yes. I agree. I use it exactly like that. And for me, having secure data sets behind it, like the sheets that you are being, yeah, for Max. Uh, Firstly, Magdalena, like I do it the same. I use trusted data, upload it, and get verifiable results. And that's for me a very good type of use. And as far as I can see, it is ethical use because I would proudly stand behind the results. Now, to answer Max in the chat, no, I'm just thinking of an example. If you've seen good AI use, or if you've noticed good AI used in your company by yourself, or from an organization that you deal with, or whomever, if you can mention a great way of how somebody is using it. Because being aware of how somebody is using a tool and starting to notice patterns there is quite valuable. We can always learn from somebody doing things slightly different or even better than ourselves. So we try to go there. I'm going to jump into the next one so I don't overstep my time boundaries greatly. Yeah, all of these are incredibly good uses. Apart from Sono or Suno, it is one of the biggest copyright infringement in human history. But it creates awesome songs, even bangers in some cases. Bad use, spreading wrong information, we've all seen that, and it can be used to manipulate crowds greatly because it's getting to a point where we can't see the difference. It's getting to the point, or it's already gotten to the point, where images or photos are so, and even videos, are so easily manipulated to a degree where we can't see the difference. We are unable to trust even our photos and hence our memories because of how we use them. I build a lot of memories from the past years. I would build it on looking up in my Google Photos, finding it, aha, this is how it was. this is who was sitting with me. But at the time, now at least, I'm unable to trust that kind of information, but also texts and AI models, tracing back to thirds like this, how it's utilizing data. It will build a model or models, and then it will create a prediction of what we want to see or the data that we were trying to extract from the models. It will then send that back into the data pool, then building again. So if the data that we are choosing to send back is bad and false, and often case it is, the next answer result will also be that. Utilizing it without guidelines is something that we should not do. It's very it is irresponsible, but it's easy. I feel strongly about like a lot of unethical use. I mentioned Suno in particular because I've also used it to create amazing songs. It can create texts, can create music that is indistinguishable from live music or live creators, but it destroys a lot. So good use today, or how it is defined in most of the research papers on the matter at the moment. There we are seeing it is built on verified, shared, and up to information. We remain as owners of the output. That's one of the steps that we, at least in my organizations, have taken to secure the data, that I own the answer. And by that, I mean that I would stand behind it. I will defend my answer as I would from another member of staff or something that I would write myself on a piece of paper and publish. It is mine. But that is all because we don't want to replace service. We just want to support it or make it better. And it is, but it's easy to let it replace and automate. Collaborative efforts. We discussed in 24 quite a lot on like pooled data sets and how we can use them. And it's been interesting to follow how things have progressed there. Now, unintentionally, as individuals and organizations, we are pooling a lot of data every time that we use, for example, ChatGPT or Instagram, X, Facebook, whatever. Whichever time we use digital services, we are pooling data and we are giving it away. But doing it in a planned way, a responsible way, is something that we can get better at both locally as like neighbors. For example, if you're operating in a similar area as Katla Geopark, for example, I would always recommend getting in contact with Anne and trying to figure out how her data benefits you and vice versa. So figuring out how the data that we collect can help make the other stronger, because then we have a stronger foundation to build on and expand our services. And this is at the bottom there's a question that I want you to just take with you. I don't need an answer for this. I know how it will help you, but are you sure how it will help you? Unified guest info, or UGI. So getting all the data, or not all, but selected data from collaborators in our field or in our area, in our town, in our part of the country, utilizing, for example, Östubru, Vestfjords, SSNVAF, or whichever, using local offices to get unified data is a great way to move forward. Because then you have data that you can trust, because you trust the people behind it, and they will publish data or sell or whichever deal you strike with them. You will get data for something else, perhaps just your data, so fair exchange. But you will stand by it. Like if I give Magdalena info on how many people come to Bolungarvík, I will make sure that it is correct. So by doing so and entering such agreements, and we are building pretty strong data pools, these can then be stored locally to remain or to secure the data ownership or the data sovereignty. And that's also important because your data is your data. utilizing it, the pooled data from your area, which most likely is catering to a very specific demographic of people, the guests that are coming, that are buying the services. Utilizing data that we are all collecting will provide better services on all ends, and that's a fact. Again, on the benefits of working together, I'm beginning to sound like an absolute communist here, but we should be doing more things together. But that's something that we already know. But it is in many cases, especially if you're starting your journey with your company or organization, it is quite easy to become caught up in the illusion that your data is only your data and your struggle is distinctively yours. Most of the organizations or companies go through similar steps. Somebody has already solved your issue. Raising the service quality should always be the focus. If you are a service provider, that is.
I think that is something that was very obvious in the seminar in the Westfjords, because the business owners talked to each other, and then they were like, "Oh, why are you using this tool? What do we get out of this?" And then there was a conversation starting where people could tell from their experience. I think that's a perfect point that you're bringing here.
And it was super interesting. And this was a case in like most of the events that we've been in together, Marlena, that when people, even from the same like geographic area, were sitting down and discussing, they were still like, you're doing this. I knew that you existed, but I didn't know what you were doing.
Exactly.
The discussion had never happened before, and that's understandable, but also something we should probably work on. So to planning and creating data sets is valuable specifically if you use it to build on plans or to plan out from it. Coordinating like the next 12 months of your operation is probably something that you already are quite good at, to have a business model canvas always up and to have it as a live document, but not something you just to do in the first steps of operations, is something that I truly recommend. And at least for the people that have participated in the workshops that I've been a part of and the business owners that I know and the organizations that function, usually they are evolving always. And that's something that we are trying to get better at my projects at least. We use the 12 months for me, and this is like specifically for me as 12-month plan. I want to coordinate my tools better to get like a better pipeline of tools to crunch data. For that, I'm aiming at strengthening my predictions, like which patterns I'm seeing and how I'm collecting data, and to integrate data across teams. And that is something that I'm already doing. Like in my projects, we try to be very transparent with everything that we gather. But in 12 months, I want to be there. I want to be better at these 4 things. And for you, it will, of course, be different in some cases, but perhaps the same focus is applied.
And then we have a question from Hector. He asks, what would be the most reliable and useful tourism data source that you recommend and can have access here in Iceland?
So Íslandsstofa would have an immense wealth of data on a national level. They also have access to the data on regional levels, but I would talk to your regional office. So for the Westfjords, it would be Vestfjarðastofa, in particular Sölvi. And for each and every regional office, there would be like a specific person responsible for tourism. They would have this data. If they don't, we should probably help them on sorting that data. But yeah, so like for your operation in particular, there would be a different data set that is most beneficial to you. But like traffic data, Ferðamálastofa has that. Vestfjarðastofa would have it for the Westfjords. Íslandsstofa will have it in some bracket. Íslandsstofa at least would be a great place to start, Hector. After the 12 months, 2-3 years, And this is still focusing on collaborations. If we pool our data, if we get better at collaborating, so blah, blah, blah. Yes, I want to make Facebook. Yeah. I agree with this, Max. It's a great idea, but I don't think Facebook groups are convenient for this. They get flooded quite easily and data starts to disappear in floods. So another service is probably available. And I can help you look for that as well if you haven't already found it. Now, in the next 2-3 years, if we work together in my teams, we see that we can manage guest flows differently. We can use shared dashboards to get clearer views on what exactly we need to do or want to do. And we can balance the seasonal workload better. In the Westfjords, we have an extremely short season. So most of the travel agents here, and there are some in the group here with us, most of them have a second or a third or a fourth job to cover the seasons. And that's something that we probably should aim at evolving from to make our business sustainable in that sense, not in the ecological sense. Also the ecological sense, of course. Now, but what happens if we do absolutely nothing? Because most of us, like us being here, indicates that we are aware that AI is already an important factor of our daily lives and businesses. Figuring out or predicting what will happen if we do nothing is not difficult for us. And we should probably give that a thought. Like for our business, what does it mean if we sit by? Will we survive or will we probably slide? Yeah, I agree with you, Jamie. That's a completely different slideshow, though. But it's a huge one. The environmental impact of AI, yeah, it's completely wild. It absolutely is. But as with all new industries, there is like a very steep hill upwards. And there are a million things that they haven't figured out on how to compute. I mean, one of the things that we are seeing as a result of this, that's that there is like an absolute shortage of processors for this because we can't let AI do everything. Tracing back to the absolute need for planning on how we intend to use it. So we're not just creating slop. I mean, well, not most, but a lot of computing power is just going towards answering questions like, can you make me a better looking Tinder profile? So we should probably try to like limit the use there. Also, just for, I mean, we all have responsible ways of tackling this, but on a governmental level, there is not necessarily a great plan, at least not in Iceland. Sustainability certifications for individual projects will not be affected as for now, but they probably will at some point. But there will be ethical guidelines and environmentally ethical guidelines to follow, probably. I haven't seen them, but I hope they will. Pitfalls to avoid. The automation without human control. Again, we can let it create, and probably we could have AI manage most of our social media accounts and output. We could have them out. We could automate all the email answers. We can have Claude do most things. So we don't want that, or at least we should not, because it's not creating a better service. It's not upping the level of service we provide. It's just cutting corners. It's saving time. But I also am extremely sympathetic towards the fact that time is our greatest asset. So yeah, okay. So, oops, pitfalls again, and the trust issue. Like if we recreate errors and we repeatedly publish them, then unfortunately trust is affected greatly, and we will see that in our dashboard. And we have to be very mindful of how to protect against it. How we succeed less awkwardly. Have responsibilities, be very clear in your planning, train the staff in the skills. Don't just say Google it or Claude it or ChatGPT it on how they must build their skill sets. Allocate time towards it, be it with yourself or your staff. There should be somebody responsible for specific roles. And that's how you would do it in all other industry. Build real cooperations and collaborations, because that is how we get stronger. United we stand and all that. Strategize via milestones. Be sure of how we get there and who takes the first step in the company. If nobody steps up, it probably is you, because you are already here. Back to step-by-step plans, the rules and the shared vision. I'm hammering on these points because they are the most important ones. We won't reach anywhere without planning. We will just continue, at least in my experience and the examples around me, it will just continue the same way if we don't plan out of it. Apply AI in daily tasks responsibly, improve forecasts. But the question of how to achieve the first things and what is then first is a matter of individual needs. That is something that is a discussion within your company, but I'm always willing to have that discussion. If somebody wants to take contact, my email is like on the list, but also here. For those of you already not in contact with me somehow, it's in the chat. Running out of time. I'm terribly sorry, Magdalena, for eating up most of the time.
No, that's totally fine. That's why we're here.
But for this, a visual timeline and like putting this on your whiteboard just to visualize it better is something I would recommend. If you don't have a whiteboard, I do recommend buying one because they're so much fun. Throw on a wall if you need to. In the first 3 months, just planning around it. Be sure that you agree with your collaborators and your staff on how you intend to use the tools. And then after that, after you realize the need, like what you want to realize with it or what you want to like achieve with it, you can then start looking for the tools. All the tools before mentioned, like Claude, like ChatGPT, like Canva, which has great AI automation. And most of the processing like programs already have it. Even on Google Documents, you can have it create everything for you, which is wild. Finding the tools is easy after you realize the need for the tools. Like you won't buy a saw unless you need a saw. Launch the uses in the 3 to 6 months after up until the half year to 1 year mark, like quarter 3 and 4, you would always aligning the forecasts with the planning that you need to do. Like where do you want to be in 12 months? And your plans should always just be towards that. Having the tools help you with planning is a great way of using them. And there are great tools for it. Sustainable collaborations for the next years. That's something that you are probably already working on. You have a great network of service providers around you. But the question at the bottom of this one, how does your current timeline look? That's always individual as well. You come from different industries. One of my friends here in the group here even has a candle factory. So his timeline is wildly different from Hector's. Next steps. The summary, this slide. The AI is always a tool. It's never the answer. Benefits built step by step, always. Collaborations unlock real success. That's always. Recognizing patterns is valuable as data, and data is king. It is. So when we look at what data to get from our guests, sometimes it's enough just to know where they come from, how old they are, and what they enjoyed doing. What is their feedback? From that, we can extract perhaps the next customer. We are appealing and we appeal to a certain type of person from a certain type of area that is looking for a certain type of thing. So we can then focus our advertisement towards that. This was all from me. 3 minutes to spare. So if there are any wonderfully great questions, I would encourage you to shoot them now or write me an email later. There is, like the data paper in the back is everything that this is built on. There's a lot of research papers on the subject. AI is a quite important issue of our generation, of our time, so there's a lot of information to be found. How to find the tools, which is like a practical issue. After you've hopefully read through most of these, finding the tools will be a non-issue because they are easily accessible. And most likely, after we discussed this for quite some time and your phone is listening or your watch, you will be bombarded with offers for tools that you can use. Any questions?
Yes, thank you so much, Gunnar, for this insight. It was very, very interesting. And also, I think it's food for thought because it kind of shows us that AI is happening and that we should do something about it. But it's just like with digitalization in tourism, especially small tourism businesses often remain inactive until they really have to take action. So I really liked this recommendation of yours to make a 12-month plan.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. It was an absolute pleasure to share my limited insights into this, but yeah, it's always fun.
Are there any questions? You can just unmute yourself and talk. I think that's the easiest way.
Yes.
Or comments also are welcome.
Yes, always. Criticism as well. There's something that I apparently missed.
Okay, doesn't seem like it. Then I think I just thank you again, Gunnar, for your input. Oh, here you go. David's just clapping. Thank you so much for everybody for being here. And like Gunnar said, you can always contact him with questions or feedback. We recorded this session. And if you would like to have the recordings, just drop me a line and we are happy to share the recordings with you. Just one more thing, could you please remember to fill out the evaluation surveys? That would help us greatly. Other than that, I have nothing more to say than wishing you a beautiful rest of the day and see you soon.